As the mission director, what recent activities and initiatives in the industry are keeping you engaged?
Right. So I have this privilege and honor of heading a unique organization called Gujarat State Electronics Mission. When I say it is a unique body, it is unique in the sense that it is the body which does semiconductor and electronics policy promotion and investor facilitation for the industries pertaining to these two sectors. It is also the same body which works as a single window agency for all kinds of approval pertaining to these two sectors. So once the approvals are granted, the same agency does the incentive dispersal as well. So it is unique in the sense that it does the work of investment promotion, it does the work of investor facilitation, and it does the work of subsidy dispersal as well. So it's a umbrella body. It's a unique in the sense that it is the same body which is doing policy promotion and subsidy dispersal as well. So right now, as you are aware, there are 5 projects which have been approved under the India Semiconductor Mission scheme, out of which 4 have landed in Gujarat. So one of them being Tata in collaboration with PSMC is building India's first commercial fab semiconductor packaging units as well. So Micron is already under construction. Construction is going smoothly. Then CG Power has also announced they have also started the construction work, and then the Canes. So 1 fab and 3 packaging units have already landed up in Gujarat. So we are in constant touch with a lot more investors. We keep engaging with industries, and we expect more announcements to come soon.
Can you paint an overall picture of the impediments to growing the ESDM and semiconductor ecosystem in the state, and how are you aiming to tackle the hurdles?
Correct. So while we take immense pride and accept the fact with humility that out of 4 projects have landed in Gujarat, we are constantly in motion. We are constantly in touch with other industries. We are open to their suggestions, their feedbacks. Our power infrastructure, our water infrastructure is extremely sound, yet we keep holding these review meetings and constant dialogues with the prominent investors so that we can make course corrections if required. So that project monitoring component, constant review and constant upgradation of infrastructure, power, water and other infrastructure is going on. That's on one hand. On the other hand, skilled workforce is need of the hour as far as semiconductor and electronic sector are concerned. So we have, just to give you an example, recently we have announced a center of excellence in PDEU. Now that center of excellence is a tripartite arrangement where Micron, one of the anchor investors, is donating equipments. DST is supporting, our department is supporting in terms of some capex and some opex, and PDU is also chipping in with some component of capex and opex. So basically, industry, academia, and government, all three coming together for a project for skill development of the youth. Now, as we progress and as we move ahead in semiconductor and electronics, the skilled manpower is the need of the hour. So we are constantly aware. We are in touch with industries as to what their requirements of the skilling is. We are in touch with academia so that we can work as a bridge between industry and academia. So, now a lot of universities in Gujarat, engineering colleges in Gujarat have started upgrading their course modules in concurrence or in accordance with the industrial requirements. So anchor investors are also in touch with some of the Gujarat engineering colleges. So that way we are also addressing this issue of skill development in semiconductor electronics.
You have a separate ESDM and semiconductor policy. What is the uniqueness of Gujarat's electronics and semiconductor policy as compared to other states?
Correct. So these are 2 different policies, as you rightly mentioned. While the semiconductor policy deals with projects approved under the India Semiconductor Mission scheme, electronic policy is a rather umbrella scheme which deals with all kinds of industries pertaining to ESDM. Now, at present, there are no plans to merge these two or make any corrections as of now. But as I mentioned, we are open to suggestions. We are open to feedbacks from the industry and academia. So as we are in touch with more and more industries and more people from academia, wherever we feel that some course correction is required, we are open to that feedback. Right now, there's no such plan of amending these policies. Because we think, as you are well aware, Gujarat was the first state which launched its own semiconductor policy. So our state has a unique distinction of applying policy very uniformly to everybody. We have exceptional policy uniformity, I would say. And that has also been a factor because of which 4 projects have landed in Gujarat. And our investors have been treated at par. Our policies have been applied very uniformly and very fairly in a very just manner to everybody who has landed in Gujarat. And that is how we have always worked here.
What is the total land allotted to the electronics and chip investors in the past few years, and what is the total capex and subsidies offered to the industry?
Yes, the points that have been mentioned in the policy apply uniformly to all the entities. But as I mentioned, the projects, only those projects which have been approved under India Semiconductor Mission scheme are eligible for subsidies under the semiconductor policy. And therefore, out of 5 projects, 4 have landed in Gujarat, and they are eligible for getting subsidy under the semiconductor policy. So in a way, Gujarat semiconductor policy is dependent on the scrutiny of India Semiconductor Mission's policy. We don't have a parallel mechanism of scrutiny. There is no additional burden to industries. Whatever scrutiny is undertaken by the ISM or at the union level, we completely rely on that. So just to give you an example, a project worth $11 billion, Tata Electronic and in collaboration with PSMC. Now that project was granted approval from the state government in less than 24 hours. So a project worth $11 billion is granted approval at the state government in less than 24 hours. That's the speed at which government of Gujarat operates. Now, so as I mentioned, our approvals under the semiconductor policy are completely dependent on government of India's approval. That's one. It is applicable to all the entities, whether global or Indian. Electronics policy is standalone policy. It is not dependent on government of India's policy per se. It is closely aligned and in synergy with government of India's policy, but it is not dependent as such. The scrutiny is taken at the level of state government only. Also, as far as the subsidy bracket is concerned, in semiconductor policy, whatever the government of India provides on capex, 40% of that, 40% of government of India's component on capital subsidy is granted by government of Gujarat. This in addition to the subsidy on power tariff, the infrastructure, the subsidy on water. There are certain non-fiscal incentives also. So while the mathematical part of subsidy is important, the state has invested tremendously in setting up the infrastructure, the kind of infrastructure that we have right now. And that number cannot be quantified, but overall as a package, if you see the logistics that we have, the connectivity that we have, the exceptionally reliable power network, water network that we have, the package is next to none, I believe. And that has been a major reason why the investments have landed in Gujarat. Correct. So on land, first 200 acres for semiconductor project is given a subsidy of 75% for land procurement. There is subsidy on power also. Water is given at the rate of 12 rupees per cubic meter for certain period of time, and then a year-on-year increase of 10%. So it is a judicious mix of power, water, capital, land, everything. Similarly, in electronics policy, there is a component for capital subsidy. There is an employment generation incentive as well. There is a power tariff incentive as well. Further, we have an interest subsidy component in electronics policy as well. So catering to the needs of these two sectors, our policies have been customized and made a complete package which takes care of all kinds of requirements of a present day industry, I would say. And yet we, as I mentioned, we are open to all kinds of suggestions, and we constantly are in touch with our industrial partners.
What are Gujarat's most prominent differentiating aspects, which are attracting the major semiconductor investments?
So, as I mentioned, ours was the first state which launched its own semiconductor policy. So, we have been very, very proactive as far as governance is concerned. The culture of the state has been such. That's one. Two, the policy in itself is a unique package which ideally takes care of almost everything which an industry needs. Point three, we have, as I mentioned, we have an exceptional power, reliable network, water network, very sound infrastructure, which still is in constant state of upgradation. And four, just to give you an example, when we had signed this agreement with Micron and the investment landed in Micron and the construction is landed in Gujarat and the construction is going on. So we have committed a timeline for payment of the subsidies to Micron. We have done the disbursement of around, I would say 7 disbursements we have done to Micron. Not even once we have failed on that timeline. Not even a delay of single day from government of Gujarat side.
Exactly.
So the larger point that I'm trying to make is whatever is mentioned in our policy is sacrosanct. We have completely committed ourselves to each word mentioned in the policy, and we have followed that time and again.
Out of the state's total 196,024 square kilometers of areas, why Sanand and Dholera is the most preferred semiconductor destination, and which are the additional areas targeted for investments in the industry?
So Dholera has been chosen as India's first greenfield smart city. It has been declared as a semicon city by government of Gujarat. That is a dedicated area pertaining to semiconductor and electronics where the allotments are being done and where Tata is setting up its operations in collaboration with PSMC, of course. So Dholera, if you see, the infrastructure is excellent. We have a dedicated CETP, STP, exceptionally reliable power network. Water supply is very stable. So that way we have invested tremendously in the infrastructure augmentation at Dholera. Now, as far as the logistics portion is concerned, there's a well-established road network. The expressway from Ahmedabad to Dholera work is going on and likely to be completed by January. Work of dedicated international airport at Dholera is also going on. Port is also well connected to Dholera. So if you look at the connectivity factor, Dholera is unique in that sense. GIDC Sanand, of course, being close to Ahmedabad has its own advantage. And just to tell you, Gujarat has more than 250, around 250 estates of Gujarat Industrial Development Corporations. Sanand is just one of them. So our industrial development, though it looks that it is happening in Dholera and Sanand, there are several electronics units which are located in several other GIDCs all across the state. Just to name a few, Vadodara, Rajkot, and Surat have a lot of ESDM units. So while the semiconductor projects have landed in Dholera and in Sanand, the development of state, industrial development of state is not specific to a particular region. The development is well distributed across the length and width of the state. And there are several ESDM units working all across the state. As you're aware, for fintech and IT, GIFT City is one of the best infrastructure that you would find across the country. That's one. As I mentioned, the GIDC estates all across the state are well developed. They have excellent infrastructure. GIDC estates in Vadodara district, in Surat district, in Rajkot district, in Ahmedabad districts, Bagodara itself. There are several, more than 200 to 239, if I am not mistaken. The number is somewhere around 250. So there are more than 250 industrial estates which are developed and which have good infrastructure and very, very, prone to electronics and other industries. Now, if you see the industrial development of Gujarat, Rajkot is very well known for its machine tools. Savli, Vadodara region is known for bio and pharma.
Yes.
Similarly, southern part of Gujarat for textile and pharma. So the industrial development is not specific to a particular sector and it is not specific to a particular region in the state. There are more than 250 well-developed industrial estates of Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation.
How will Gujarat's electronics and semiconductor development contribute to India's overall economy, and what will be the approximate contribution to GSDP?
Right. So while the contribution to India's GDP and the state's GSDP is a different thing, the kind of strategic autonomy this sector brings to both national level and the state level is excellent. So the government has conveniently and very categorically decided to invest in this sector because the strategic autonomy that it brings to nation and the state. So that has been a conscious call at the union level. We, of course, have been good followers of the union government's policy. We have been very forthcoming. We were the first one to launch our policy. So while it is one way to look at the investment numbers, the kind of employment that it generates, that's absolutely okay. But the kind of strategic autonomy, the self-reliance, the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and of course Atmanirbhar Gujarat, that is associated with semiconductor industry is unique in itself. That is a larger point that I would like to make.
What would be the ratio of total employment in the coming year, and any number you would like to share?
Right now, four semiconductor projects which have landed in Gujarat have an investment of 1,24,000 crore, 1.24 lakh crores. And because of them, around 53,000 jobs have been created, are likely to get created in the upcoming years. Now, that is a mix of direct and indirect employment, both. As I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, our strategy of skill development is in close contact with industry partners in the academia in Gujarat. I gave you an example of a center of excellence being built in PDU. Now, this is a kind of unique arrangement where industry, academia, and government, all three have come together. It is a tripartite arrangement of Department of Science and Technology, Government of Gujarat, PDEU, and of course the Micron, where the training equipments are being donated by the industry partner Micron. Some portion of CapEx and OpEx have been taken care by Department of Science and Technology, Government of Gujarat, and similarly other CapEx and OpEx related expenditure are likely to be incurred by PDU as well. So therefore, we are following this approach of keeping academia and industry along with us and trying to work as a bridge between the industrial requirements of skill and trying to bridge the requirement of that skill from the academic institution that we have in Gujarat. So IIT Gandhinagar being one of the most prominent institution of the state. We have SC Surat as well. Then we have PDU, LD College of Engineering, and a whole lot of colleges under the umbrella of Gujarat Technological Universities. So we are in constant touch with our academic partners and industrial partners, and wherever we feel that course correction is required, in fact, the curriculum, the modules are being designed in consultation with these industrial players. So such is the kind of academy industry collaboration that is being worked out in the state of Gujarat, and we've been very proactive and very forthcoming on that front as well.